SNP's push for independence was derailed last November when the UK Supreme Court ruled that Holyrood doesn't have the power to hold Indy Ref 2 without Westminster's consent. 6 months on, and amid the continuing crisis over its finances, the party has named the 24th of June as the date for a special independence convention. We're told June's event in Dundee will be solely focused on how Scotland is able to hold a legally binding referendum. For more on this, we spoke to the Scottish Government's Minister for Independence, Jamie Hepburn. Minister, the Independence Convention, the 24th of June, will be solely focused on how Scotland is able to hold a legally binding independence referendum. That's what we're told. But you know the answer to that already. You have to get Westminster to agree to it and consent it with a Section 30 order. So what's the point in all of this?
Well, the point, John, is that there's a coming general election, a general election that's going to be very important for Scotland, important for the SNP, because we are determined to continue to press the case and move Scotland towards independence. And in that sense, it's wholly incumbent on us, it's sensible for us to bring our party members together to discuss thoroughly exactly how we do that. How do we move Scotland towards independence? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do it through the prism of legalistic electoral means, as you would expect, but we will be discussing exactly how we intend to move Scotland towards independence by presenting that at in our next manifesto at the next election.
But the Tories, Labour, have both said you ain't going to get a Section 30 order. So you can talk till the cows come home, but if that doesn't happen, it's not happening.
Well, with respect, I find it interesting that that question is put to me, because fundamentally this is about democracy. We'll lay out what we want to lay out in our manifesto, and if people vote for that, that should be respected. So, frankly, questions about why the Tories and the Labour Party take the posture they do should be correctly put to them. Why is it that they fear Scottish democracy?
My point to you is... That will be put to them. My point to you is, sorry for talking over you, but that point will be put to them. But the point I'm saying to you is, at this, as it stands, they're not granting you a Section 30 order, so you can talk about it all you want, but that's not going to change.
Well, as things stand, we've got a general election likely next year, certainly at the latest January 2025. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay out our case for independence. And if the people of Scotland vote for it, that must be respected.
Forgive me for this next question. It's going to be slightly long, but the point, it will be clear to you. We had the former First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, going to the Supreme Court, then making a general election, a de facto referendum. Then Hamza Yusuf said he wasn't wedded to that. He said he needed a consistent majority for independence. Now he says, well, maybe aye, after all. The SNP are all over the place in this, aren't they?
Not at all, not at all. That's precisely why we're going to have this discussion, because I think it's right that party members come together to discuss these matters, and we'll present our policy at the forthcoming election. But I tell you what... But
the policy's changing all the time, isn't
it? Sorry, no, our policy, as it always has been, to secure and win Scottish independence. But, you know, when I'm out there talking to people on the doorsteps, I'm afraid to say this isn't what gets them interested, this isn't what gets them going. When I'm speaking to members of the public about independence, they want to hear about the positive case, the vision for a fairer and more progressive, socially just Scotland. They want us to look to other examples. If you look at other countries in the north of Europe about the same size as Scotland, the Republic of Ireland, Norway, Finland, Denmark, they're all fairer, more equal, wealthier and more productive countries. They provide the model for Scotland. Let's talk about that rather than process.
No, but you have to talk about the process, because this won't happen without you getting a Section 30 order. So let me ask you, is it just for clarity, is a de facto referendum back on the table as far as you're concerned?
So long as it's within the scope of legalistic electoral means, then nothing's off the table. I'm very clear about that. The First Minister's been very clear about that. It is for party members to discuss. That's democracy in action in the SNP.
This is simply just to appease your supporters, isn't it? It's making it seem as if you're doing something, because you know what you need to get.
Now, look, that's, with all due respect to you, John, that's utter nonsense. This isn't about appeasing anyone. I joined the SNP many years ago. I'm not going to tell you exactly how many because I was 18 years old and that was a while ago. And I joined for independence. The SNP is serious about independence. We want to win independence, and that's why we're engaging in this discussion to make sure that we can have the chance for members to discuss the platform we'll stand on, because we want to win independence. It's not about appeasing anyone. We're serious about this.
So how do you secure that independence referendum then? I know you're saying that's what you're discussing. I understand you're saying that's what you're discussing, but what's going to change that's going to deliver that for you?
Well, with respect, I go back to the fundamental point. What we will do is we'll present a policy position in our manifesto, and if the people of Scotland vote for that, that should be respected. No one should stand in the way of Scottish democracy. If the people of Scotland endorse our position, if they support Scotland's right to move towards independence, Scotland's chance to have that say, then no one should stand in the way of it. These are questions for others to answer. If you look at the other parties, they signed up to the Smith Commission. They said that if the people of Scotland want to become independent, they should have that right. If you look at the other parties, they've signed up to the claim of right, the recognition that the people of Scotland are sovereign. So, if that's their position, frankly, they shouldn't be doing anything to counteract that, and they shouldn't stand in the way of the Scottish people's right to choose.
You're talking about what the electorate want. Your MP colleague David Linden earlier today told STV News in relation to the potential Rutherglen-Hamilton West by-election, he said the message is crystal clear. The SNP will have a laser focus on the cost of living crisis, on the NHS, on the economy. Laser focus, he said. So who's kidding the electorate, you or him?
No one's kidding the electorate. I mean, if you talk about the cost of living crisis right now, that's been exacerbated massively by the austerity agenda that the UK government has implemented for over a decade. Look at them now, they're talking about work capability assessments being changed again. That's causing significant concern. You look at the disaster zone of the mini budget that was put in place when Liz Truss was in government and as Prime Minister for her short time in post, which increased inflation, which put mortgages through the roof. If you look at the disaster zone, that's Brexit, which has shaved 5% off the value of the UK economy. Those are all impacting the cost of living. We don't just have a cost of living crisis in Scotland, we have a cost of Westminster crisis. The idea that the vision for independence is somehow separate from the need to tackle at source the causes of cost of living is frankly a nonsense.
Jamie Hepburn, thanks for joining us in Scotland Tonight.